affiliate management is not a 9 to 5 job. It's more like juggling flaming chainsaws while answering emails in a moving car. So, how do you stay on top of it all without burning out or losing track of what matters most? That's what today's episode is all about. Because let's face it, when everything feels important, nothing actually gets done. If you're ready to take your affiliate program and your business to the next level, well, you're in the right place. I'm Matt McWilliams, best-selling author and 4-time Affiliate Manager of the Year, and I've built dozens of affiliate programs from the ground up to over $1 million a month. I'm here to show you how you can do it too. Let's get started. So time management, it can feel like a bit of a myth for affiliate managers. There's so much to do. I mentioned in the intro, it's like juggling chainsaws, right? While answering emails and trying to drive a car. It's so hard, especially if you run multiple programs. And I know a lot of you are running one program. You're either a part-time affiliate manager who also owns the business, or you're a partner in a business, or you've got 5 other roles in the company. But also a lot of you are full-time affiliate managers and you're doing it for multiple programs. And so it's different depending upon what role you're in. But I'm going to talk about, whether you have 15 hours a week to run your affiliate program or 40, or you're running 3 programs for 50 hours, whatever, I'm going to break down the strategies that I use and how I think you should manage your time, regardless of those situations. It's a lot different for me now. Not only am I an affiliate manager for multiple programs, but I'm running a company. Back when I was a full-time affiliate manager for one company, I didn't do a podcast like this. Podcasts like this take a couple of hours to plan, to think through, just like, what do I even want to talk about? So I'm not talking about the same thing I talked about 2 weeks ago, because I don't even know what 2 weeks ago's episode was, so I have to go through and make sure. I have to plan how what I'm recording, and then I have to plan the episode, and I have to, I don't operate off of a script, but I operate off of bullet points. And so I want to make sure, tell this story. And so then I actually have to record it, and then I have to get it edited, and then, we have the marketing behind it. It takes time. Not only that, but I'm managing our team, and I'm managing our other content, and I'm managing, X, Y, and Z within the company, the finances, whatever. Much like when I first started. When I first started, I wasn't just an affiliate manager. I've shared that story so many times. I was the CMO, the affiliate manager. I was the CTO. I also ran the overall company, in the sense of, I wasn't the CEO, but I ran the day-to-day. If one of our salespersons, needed a pin, I was the one who had the pins, and so I was single, and we didn't have kids, and I was working 1 million hours a week, but still it was hard. And then I transitioned from that, and then I was a full-time affiliate manager, but then I became the CMO again for this other company. So I went from having 40 hours a week to just do affiliate management to, I also had to worry about our paid ads and our Facebook ads. And this is back in the early 2010s. So, there wasn't like a lot of other advertising back then, like there is now. There wasn't TikTok and stuff like that, but I still had to manage my time within the affiliate realm. And so, like I said, I want to share the strategies that I use and that I teach to stay sane, to stay focused, to be productive. These are what I'm going to share today. I'm probably not going to share anything earth-shattering, but when you hear them as a whole, they're simple, they're powerful, they are tailor-made for the chaos that the affiliate management world brings. But when you hear them as a whole, I think you'll see that, the simplicity, but you'll probably either this is I hope, you'll be reminded of something simple that you got out of the habit of doing. B, you'll see the bigger picture and go, okay, yep, I see how those things work together. I need to be doing all of those things, not just a couple of them. And C, that maybe you might even learn something new. It's simple, and it's simple to me, and it's simple to a lot of you, but maybe there's something you haven't heard before. So if you think, if you're getting through, the first 5 or 10 minutes, you're like, I heard all this before, this is so obvious and simple, don't stop listening, keep listening. And I think there'll be some good stuff in there for you. So why is time management important? Let's talk about why it even matters. Listen, I understand, like I said, there's a lot of chaos. Okay. I have, gosh, probably sometime last year, I talked about how the affiliate manager brain, eh, the affiliate manager, you have to be good at relationship building. This is why I became an affiliate manager, because I was the only one on our team, our small team of about 7 people, who was good with people, who was good at marketing, who was good at data analysis, and who was good at, um, you know, thinking through kind of the management side of things, which kind of encompassed all of those. We had people on our team who were great at relationships, but they didn't know the first thing about marketing. Or they were great at marketing, but they didn't know the first thing about analyzing the data. They were really good at the data, but gosh, you get on the phone with them and it's like talking to a brick wall. And so it combines all of those things. And you're doing all of those things sometimes within an hour or two of your day. You're analyzing data and then switching to relationship mode to be able to talk to the person about the data, to talk to the affiliate. And then you have to turn around and you have to think about the marketing. And sometimes it's all three, because the reason why you studied the data and the data shows that their sales are down, well, then you got to key the relationship side to get them on the phone, to even get them to talk to you and build the relationship. And then you got to put on your marketing hat to, okay, well, their sales are down 40%. How do you help them to increase their sales back up to, the way they were before? And, the data analysis side, I will say, has gotten a lot easier in the last 2 years. Like I just finished writing a program. It's a GPT that I created. I'll make it public pretty soon. Hopefully within the next couple of weeks or months, as I fine tune it. But essentially we're able to download the day, like the spreadsheet for the previous day. And we've written it to the point where the GPT analyzes the data and tells us exactly what we need to know. Like it tells us the trends, it tells us everything. And so we start catching these things like, well, this affiliate's down 8% in the past 30 days. Is down 8% that big of a deal? It's really not, because that could be anything. Sometimes like month over month, 3% of the 8% is the fact that there's one less day in the month. If you think about that, like that's part of it. It could just be the timing. There's all kinds of factors that you then have to take off your, like the pure data hat and say, okay, well, there's a reason for that. You have spring break was that month. Okay, that makes sense. There was a couple of holidays, okay, that makes, oh wait, actually they're down 8% every June over May. So it's nothing. Don't even worry about it. But it analyzes the data and it catches that 8% and you go, okay, now I'm going to yellow flag them. So I want to pay particularly close attention. If they're 8% in April and May and June, well, that's a problem that we need to start addressing. And they're already on my radar. And so, yeah, the data analysis has gotten a lot easier because of technology, but it's chaotic. The other thing about affiliate management is it is deceptively reactive. If you don't manage your time, your day will disappear responding to Slack messages, quick questions, quick emails, Facebook messages, whatever, IG messages, DMs. And what happens is it becomes, like I said, it's very deceptively reactive. And you realize all of a sudden it's 5:30, you're finishing up for the day in 15 minutes, and you've done nothing that you wrote down at the beginning of the day. You've effectively, it feels like you've accomplished nothing. We've all been there. We've all had those days. It doesn't matter if you're an affiliate manager or whatever. We have all had those days. And so what happens, we get this mindset that like, okay, if I don't respond right away, then it's going to ruin the promotion. If I delay the outreach too long, we've got, relationships go cold, and then you get burned out and you end up dropping the ball. And so one of the quick tips here, this is not in my notes, but it just kind of occurred to me, and maybe it is in my notes, but later. One of the things that occurred to me is you have to identify what are the, oh dear God, if I miss this, like if I don't follow up if I don't respond to this in the next 30 minutes, that's going to cause a problem. If you're in the middle of a big launch, a limited time launch, a 1 week promo, and somebody emails you about the promo, yeah, responding at 1:15 p.m. versus 4 p.m. could be the difference between them sending an email today and not sending an email at all. And if they're a big enough affiliate, that could mean 10% of your sales. That's something where you've got to react. But it's an affiliate that's never made sales and probably isn't going to anytime in the near future. Same situation, same launch, same promo, same short time period. Is it really that urgent? No. It's a completely evergreen promo, and they're asking a question about, something. Is it that urgent? No. Can it wait till later in the day or even tomorrow? Yeah. It's a 1 month promo, or it's a promo that's coming up. Let's say, it's whatever day. It's April 10th. And they're asking a question about a promo that starts in June. Is it urgent? No. Can it wait till tomorrow? Absolutely. So time management is not about doing more. It's about doing what matters first. It's about prioritizing what is urgent. And most days, frankly, it's less than 20 to 30 minutes of stuff is actually urgent. And it's about prioritizing your mental bandwidth, I guess you can even say your mental health, so you can actually lead your program. Okay? Because if you burn out and you get caught up in all the, just everything, you're going to be no use. You're not going to be creative on the things where you need to be creative, like actually coming up with campaigns, actually coming up with promotions, actually analyzing, past what just AI can do, but analyzing the data and developing those relationships. And it's, the 4 quadrants, right? Stephen Covey, I believe, where it's the urgent and the important. Yeah, that's probably 30 minutes a day. And those have to be dealt with urgently. But really focusing on the non-urgent but unimportant tasks. Is it urgent that you leave a thoughtful comment on one of your top affiliates' Facebook posts? No. If you've done so recently, let's say you talked to him 2 weeks ago and you don't leave that comment, is it going to destroy the relationship today so that they make no sales tomorrow? Absolutely not. Of course not. But is it a missed opportunity to deepen that relationship long term, which could affect sales a year from now? Yeah, especially if you keep putting it off. And so it's really, about balancing that quadrant 1 and those quadrant 4 things. If you remember, quadrant 3 is non-urgent and unimportant. So we're going to completely eliminate those. And then the other quadrant is like the urgent but not important. And that's where we get stuck. It's that quadrant that ruins our day. It's that quadrant that leaves us going at the end of the day, oh my gosh, I have accomplished nothing. If it's quadrant 1, urgent and important, and you have to spend 5-6 hours on it that day, you don't feel like you didn't accomplish something. If you get to spend 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, whatever, in quadrant 4, where it's not urgent, but it's important, you don't feel like you wasted your day. It's when you spend time in the urgent but not important or the non-urgent and unimportant quadrants that ruin your day. All right, so let's look at the big time wasters. These time sucks that eat up your day and again end up feeling at 6 o'clock, 5:30, whatever, that you're like, I've accomplished nothing today. The first one is reactive emailing. It could be reactive DMing, reactive texting, whatever. Again, outside of big promos, do not open your inbox first thing in the morning. Do not check your messages first thing in the morning. Not for the first hour. After that, yeah. What I want you to do is I want you to have fixed times. This is basic how to manage your inbox 101, right? 2, maybe 3 times during the day when you check your email. They don't have to be the same times every day. I do not put my calendar around when I check emails. Okay, so when I take my son to soccer training early, meaning like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock sometimes, versus, when he's normal time at like 6 o'clock, I move when I check email that day. I'm not planning my day around email, but I do make sure that I plan when I'm going to check email each day. Now, again, in a big promo, something where there's a lot more quadrant 1 stuff, urgent and important, I do bump that up. And I typically do start the day with a quick check of email. Is there anything that I do need to respond to? Yep, there's that one message. Cool. I knocked that out of the way. Then I reset mentally and say, okay, now for the next hour, I'm going to do things proactively. Your inbox should not be your boss. There was, I can't remember who said this, but it was something like, the inbox has basically just become a repository for other people's priorities. That should not be the case. So whether you do 2 times a day, even up to 4 times a day, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me, but they are fixed times for that day. And it might be different Monday from Tuesday, Wednesday, etc. But for me, like today I checked email at 11 and I will check it again at about 3:30. Those are my 2 times that I'm going to check email for today. That is it. I am not, unless, again, something weird happens. If my wife Tara says, hey, I just sent you an email about such and such and it's super important. Yeah, I'll go check it real quick. And I will be disciplined to not get sucked into the vortex of checking other emails. So use technology, use filters, use rules, use, tags. If you have a VA, which we'll talk a lot about next week, if you have a VA, have them go through your email first. You probably, once you're at a certain level, should never be the first person to see your email. Somebody else should be seeing it. And so for me, that's why I only end up with like 2 emails a day, sometimes as many as 5 that I even have to be the one to respond to. So that's the first one. It's just being reactive in your communication. Same thing with DMs. Don't check your DMs first thing. I check them at the end of my email sessions. That's when I choose to check. Actually, you know what? I changed that. I just changed that the other day. So that's not true. I put in my note that I changed the other day. Maybe I'm working with a possible new workflow that I'm testing out to see if it actually helps me, because a lot of the DMs that I do involve then following up via email with more stuff. I've actually tweaked to kind of test out just this week, checking DMs first and then going over to email, because what was happening, I found, was I would go to email, then I would go to my DMs and I would respond to them. Then I have to go back to email. And then I wish I was more disciplined, but I'm not. I would see something else and then I get sucked into that. And it's like, dang it. Now I'm in that vortex for an hour instead of 45 minutes and I get off schedule. So I'm playing around with just kind of tweaking how I do it. It's not to say you need to if that doesn't apply to you, but yeah, anyway, trying that. All right, the second thing is over customizing communication. Let me be clear. Relationship building matters, but perfection kills momentum. What you have to keep in mind is, especially when you're reaching out to your affiliates, most of them are glancing at this thing. They're getting the key points. So trying to over customize your emails, your DMs, like that, you're spending that extra, you're spending twice as much to get 2% greater results. That's not a good trade-off. So have a base template, personalize what you can, what makes sense, and that's it. That's it. So for me, like if I'm doing reach outs, if I reach out to you and frankly, if I get an email that's like, hello, Matt, I've noticed that you went to the University of Tennessee and you live in Fort, blah, 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 and all this stuff. And, and you like soccer and yada, yada. I'm like, and how is that relevant to me? But if I reach out to you and I customize 2 things, your name, and instead of just saying, like, if I reach out to you and say, hey, so your name's Jessica. Hey, Jessica, saw your post today, or, saw your post last week about such and such. And I thought that your audience would be, thought that this other product would be a really good fit for your audience. Okay, that's enough customization. Or if I say, hey, I was just checking out your profile and I really thought that such and such product would be a really good fit for your audience of moms. Okay, what this says to me, you know me being Jessica with the audience of moms, of course, but okay, you took a minute, but you're not like, oh my gosh, this doesn't need to be overly customized. And that's just an example. Like anything beyond that, and you're just wasting time. You don't need to scroll through 40 of their posts and read all the comments. Like their audience is moms. That's good enough. Like they promoted a similar product, good enough. The same is true of like perfecting graphics and making graphics for 42 different sizes. You know what we started doing this recently. I just give them the Canva template. If they want some obscure size, they can make it themselves. Here's the thing. Most people don't want an obscure size. But if they do, they're willing to take 14 seconds to make the other size. And now, I don't have to take the 14 seconds, although it's usually more because I don't know what sizes they want, so I'm making 30 sizes. And B, now I have to put 30 things, and it takes a long time. And you say, oh, it's only like 5 minutes. Yeah, it's 5 minutes, but it's 5 minutes every day. That's 25 minutes a week. That is 90th. That's over 1% of my work week. A lot of 1% add up to 20% of my work week. Perfecting graphics, perfecting swipe copy. Most people are using AI now anyway. So you don't really need to create perfect swipe copy. They're going to take your template and run it through their own AI and rewrite it anyway. So you don't need to perfect swipe copy. What we do is we come up with a few different audiences for most of our clients, between 2 and 4 different audiences. We create different swipe copy for those audiences, and we say, here it is. And then they do what they want with it. Another big time waster is just overthinking the simple task. Your affiliate emails don't need to be the next great American novel, right? If it is not mission critical, get it to 90%, hit send. And we have a template. I'll put a link in the show notes, but you can download our affiliate email template. The reason that it's a template is because the formula, what it has in it, it works. I follow it 90% of the time. When I don't follow it, it's usually because I'm trying to convey one thing to the affiliates. And as long as I convey that one thing, then I've accomplished the mission. I remember back in the day when I was a full-time affiliate manager only running one program, I might spend 20 minutes agonizing over the first sentence because I really wanted it to be like funny, and you know what? Doesn't matter. Now, agonizing over a subject line, absolutely. Again, you can use AI for that, because what I've done is I've split tested literally thousands of subject lines for affiliate emails, and the results of those emails, the open rate, and then we kept them in a database essentially so that I could go back and see, like, just spark my, creative juices. Well, then when ChatGPT came along and AI, became a thing, we just loaded those subject lines into a GPT and basically said, okay, here's how every one of these split tests went. This one had a 39% open rate. This one had a 42. This one had a 51. This one had a 53, so on and so forth. And it learned. And now, like, we get the subject lines pretty perfect. And it doesn't require me to agonize over it. That's something that is worth agonizing, by the way. Spending 5 minutes agonizing over a subject line back in the day was worth 5 minutes, because getting 55% to open it versus 45, that's a huge, for some of the programs that we were running, that could be a $10,000 to $50,000 difference. So it was totally worth it. Like, to our company, to me, 5 minutes could be worth $250 to $500. I got to be honest. Let's just call it the $250. What is that? That's $3,000. I don't make $3,000 an hour. Newsflash on that one. There are very few things I can do to make $3,000 an hour. Spending 5 minutes agonizing over a subject line was definitely one of them. But for most things, if you get it to 90%, you're good. You're good. What I call productive busy work is another time suck. Just endlessly, making the affiliate dashboard look perfect, or the affiliate center look perfect, or adding more social media posts when you already have 200 examples. That is disguised procrastination. That's what one of my good friends calls it, disguised procrastination. Because if I go from 200 posts to 250, I've technically accomplished something. I've added 50 posts. That's productive, quote unquote productive, but it's really just busy work. So very simple, ask yourself this question. Is this helping someone to take action? Is this going to help someone make additional sales? And if so, okay, how many additional sales do I project that we're going to make from this activity? And if it's 2, but it takes me 3 hours, most programs, I mean, again, if you've got a $10,000 product, that is very much worth it. Most programs, not worth it. Not worth it. So as the old Facebook saying goes, done is better than perfect, especially when time is tight. Affiliates need leadership. They don't need perfection. They just need guidance. They don't need that perfection. So I want to share with you a 5-part kind of time management framework for affiliates. This comes, name a book that's been written in the last 50 years about time management. No, I shouldn't say that. Name a book that sold more than like 10,000 copies about time management. I probably read it. Some of my friends are in the time management niche. Craig Jarrow, for example, Time Management Ninja. Like this is stuff I've studied. And I've kind of tweaked what they've, offered over the years, whether it be, David Allen, getting things done comes to mind. Craig Jarrow, like I said, Time Management Ninja, bunch of others, where I've just kind of applied what they've taught and I've tried things. And this is what I found works for me. So is it going to work for you? I don't know, but it works for me. Number 1, I talked about this earlier, prioritize by impact. Okay. Prioritize by impact. Your top 3 tasks each week, each month, each week, each day should directly map to revenue or relationships, which ultimately the relationships lead to the revenue. Is this going to help me solidify or build a better relationship? Is it going to help produce sales? If not, don't do it. Punt on it and delay it, delegate it, whatever, right? A lot of times if I'm like, this could make an impact, but it's probably not going to make a big one, then I'll have a VA do it. Because then it's like, well, if they screw it up, who cares? Probably wasn't going to have an impact anyway. But if they get it right, well, we can try it. And then if it works, oh my gosh, that worked. Now it'll become something that maybe, well, if it worked, they might just keep doing it. We've discovered something that I don't have to do that does impact revenue. Yay. Or B, okay, it worked on a certain level, but I think if I do it, maybe we'll have a bigger impact. But we kind of stress tested it, right? Proof of concept. The other thing is make sure you do a weekly preview. And limit yourself to 3 or 4 big weekly tasks. This is not like check email. No, I'm like anything more than 3 or 4 kind of big weekly projects that require more than a couple of hours. It's probably going to be too much because, yeah, I say don't be reactive, but there are times where you have to be a little bit reactive. And there are things that you have to get, you have to make sure you're answering your emails, you're answering your DMs, you're responding to phone calls. You're scheduling meetings with affiliates. If you're reporting to a client or whatever, you're doing those things. Those are the have to do's. That's not what I'm talking about. So what happens is we put 7 things that we want to do, and then we have to do all those other things, and we only get 3 done, and we go, well, I failed. Well, what if you'd only put 3? You succeeded. And so limit that to about 3, maybe 4. The other thing is if you're kind of staring at your to-do list, like I am right now, I'm looking at my to-do list. There are 5 things. I just said do 3 or 4. There are 5. Well, first of all, I'm going to move one of those to next week. I already know it. I'm not worried about that. But which one am I going to do first? The question is what's going to move the needle the most? And I tie it directly to revenue. Because I build in purposely on my calendar. We'll talk about this in a second in more detail, but I build in the time to build relationships. It's just already on my calendar. And so that's not moving. So it's not really in my top 3. So I'm looking at relationship building. I've already got taken care of proactively. What's going to impact revenue the most? Both short-term and long-term. Sometimes I have to sacrifice one or the other a little bit, but preferably not too much. I don't want to sacrifice too much short-term for long-term and too much long-term for short-term. The second thing, again, basic principle, right? Batch and block. Every time you have to switch context from data to relationship, from email to DMs, from, checking stats to having a phone call, from every time you have to do that, it's a product of, one of my good friends called it a productivity tax, because when we shift gears, we pay that tax. It's a productivity leak. This is what I've heard somebody else call it. our brain takes a little bit of time to catch up. And so what happens is if you spend 30 minutes on data and then 30 minutes on email, that's what you think you spent. You think, oh, I worked for an hour. You really didn't. Because if you spent the full 30 minutes on the data and then switched to email, the first 5 to 7 minutes, your brain's adjusting. And you go again, 5 to 7 minutes, but 5 to 7 minutes 4 times a day. It's over half an hour, roughly. 4 or 5 times a day. That's a half an hour times 5 days a week. It's 2.5 hours. You're giving up weeks a year switching tasks. So I theme everything, work in blocks, very simple. If I've got 3 emails to write about upcoming promos for clients, I don't write, let's say I want to send 3 emails on behalf of client 1, 2 on behalf of client 2, and 3 on behalf of client 3. I don't write 1, 1, and 1 for client A, B, and C. I write all 3 for client A. Take me a half an hour. I take a super quick mental break. Sometimes it's just to go walk a lap around my office. Just something to disengage for as little as 35 seconds. It's about how long it takes me to walk around there. Then I come back and I write the 2 for the next client. And then I do the same thing. I do that. And that takes an hour and 15 minutes. And that's my block. And then I want to do outreach. I want to do outreach for one client from 2 to 2:45. And then another client from 2:50 to 3:30. And another client from 3:35 to 4:15 or whatever the case may be. And you can use a timer. You can do the Pomodoro, whatever. You could do them in 25-minute sprints, 35-minute sprints. Maybe this one's 50 minutes because you really need to focus. But then the next one's only 20 and you take a super quick break. Again, I've personally found that 1 minute is enough. It's more than enough. And so the other thing you can do, which is managing your calendar, is just to put recurring blocks, even if you're not sure what's going to go there, but you're like, from 11 to 12, I know I'm going to be doing something creative. And that's your creative block. And then, you can fill it in the day before. Third thing, systematize everything you can. Every task that you repeat you either need to delegate it or systematize it. It should become a system. How do you onboard an affiliate? Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. How do you activate affiliates? And you want to know how to activate affiliates? Grab my templates. I will give you the activation templates totally free if you want to know how to do that. But there's step 1, step 2, step 3. There's use the template and then you create a Zap using Zapier. So with affiliate onboarding, for example, what triggers me even knowing that I have an affiliate to onboard is we use Zapier to tell me. It slacks me and says, you have a new affiliate. And then that new affiliate, awesome. We need to onboard that affiliate. Here are the steps that we use. If we're running a contest, I have an SOP for okay, the contest starts on this date. Here's when we want to announce it, roughly, depending upon the day of the week, things like that. And we systematize that. So we just create systems around everything so that it becomes repeatable. Not repetitive, but repeatable. Number 4 is to use the tools and people that save you time. I mentioned, using Zapier. That's a tool that saves me from having to log in. Do we have any new affiliates? Nope. Okay, well, that was a waste of 30 seconds of my life. Again, 30 seconds, but it adds up. When you do that 3 times a day, that's 90 seconds. And it's 90 seconds of nothingness. I don't want nothingness built into I want nothingness to be intentional, or like I said, I go walk a lap around the office, not nothingness of doing a task that still requires some brain power, but I'm accomplishing nothing. There's not moving the revenue needle. So I use Zapier to tell me you have new affiliates, and I go check that. I go check that Slack channel, and I'm like, boom, I got 3 new affiliates. Let me go onboard them. Now, the onboarding is handled by a VA because it's a simple, I just said the word. What does SOP stand for? Standard operating procedure. I could not think of the word for that, but it's an SOP. It's a system. It's been systematized. This is the email that we send. This is the spreadsheet that we add them to. This is what we do in the system to make sure they're activated. This is how we let them know what their link is. This is how we invite them to the Facebook group. This is how we do all of the steps. This is how, if they don't respond to that email, 2 days later, we follow up with them because it's an Asana task. These are like, that's all tools and VAs helping with that. Again, if you don't have a VA, that's fine. I highly recommend you get one. Well, my boss won't pay for one. Cool. I would recommend you spend a couple $100 a month on one out of your own pocket. I did that for years. My first full-time affiliate management job, where I worked for another company. It's actually the only time I've ever done that. I paid for years. I paid for a VA. None of my clients pay for my VAs. We pay for VAs through our company. It costs me money, but it makes me more efficient. If you think about it, if a person saves you 5 minutes a day, use it 200 days a year, that's 1,000 minutes. 1,000 minutes divided by 60, 16 and a half hours a year, 2 days of your life that you save in little 5-minute batches. It's totally worth it. So think about everything, every time you do something, is there something that could have made this more efficient? Is there someone that, I don't know, I could have had AI create this graphic. So I'm going to pay $10 a month out of my own pocket to have AI create these graphics. But man, at the end of the month, I've saved 2 hours. Do you make $5 or more per hour? That was worth it. Because what happens is, assuming that you're paid on some sort of a commission where you earn money as your affiliates make money, the more time you spend directing your activities towards things that actually bring in revenue, and you have to, and you spend a couple bucks of your own money. Let's say you spend $100 a month on, let's go higher. Let's say you spend $300 a month on a VA and tools like Zapier and, AI tools and stuff like that. Now you got to spend $3,600 a year, and you're like, well, that's a lot of money. That's money that comes from my paycheck, essentially. Yeah, it is. But what if that helps you make $7,000 more a year on the low end? Because you're more efficient and you're focused on revenue building and relationship building activities. You just netted $3,400, and you probably worked a little bit less, at least on the things that you don't necessarily enjoy doing as much. So you're spending more time doing the things that you love, and that's a win too. So yes, we're going to go a lot deeper talking about VAs in the next episode, because even 5 hours a week can help change the game so much. So next week, we're going to talk about how to work with virtual assistants to run an affiliate program. You don't want to miss it. So if you haven't yet, make sure you hit subscribe and do all those fun things, because you want to come back for that. And then the last thing I mentioned is a 5-part framework. Number 5 is for launches and big promos. You need to build buffer time. Okay, when you're planning out your day, assume something will go wrong, because it will. All right. Links are going to break. Someone needs hand holding. Something's going to come up. Having buffer means you have margin. And the cool thing is, if you build buffer in, I remember back, so this was 2019, and we were running our launch, big launch of our course, No Product, No Problem. It ended up being, like a $500,000 plus launch. And I was not only the affiliate manager, but I was running the whole show. Like, this was my product. I was running everything. And so I was working, 15 hours a day for 2.5 weeks. It was exhausting. And I had on my calendar, I remember exactly, from 3 to 4 one afternoon, I had on my calendar buffer time. Now, the previous, 2 out of the previous 3 days, overwhelming majority of that buffer time got taken up by, we ended up having emergency meetings to talk about things that were going wrong and what we could improve. And, I ended up getting a phone call and a text and stuff like that I needed to respond to that I wasn't anticipating, but I built that buffer time in. And on this particular, it was a Friday afternoon. My kids had games that night. And so I had to leave at 6. So, but from 3 to 4, nothing came up. And I genuinely thought there should be something I should do. But all the emails for the weekend and even for Monday were written. Everything was done. Everything was scheduled. I texted my sidekick Mark, and I'm like, okay, what am I missing? What's going? He's like, nothing. Everything's fine. I'm like, okay. Now it's 3:05. I guess I'll go take a nap. I remember I laid down on our couch, and by about 3:07, I was sound asleep, and I ended up taking an epic nap. About I think I set the clock for like 45 minutes. It was so unbelievable. I felt so good, so refreshed, and it got me through, the next few days. Part of that I was able to do that is not only did I build that buffer in there intentionally on my calendar, but I pre-did as much as possible. And that's what I'm encouraging you to do. Pre-write as much as possible, whether it's, even like leaderboard updates. You can, okay, we need to send a leaderboard update Thursday afternoon. Don't start writing the email Thursday afternoon. Write it. You could write that again, months in advance, weeks in advance, days in advance, whatever it is. And then you just fill in the blank. Okay, wow, things are amazing. Look at it. It's you can pre-write that and tweak it a little bit, to fit reality. Announcing a new contest. If you know you're going to announce a new contest next Tuesday, don't wait till Tuesday to write the email. Write it in advance. Again, build that margin when you have it. Anything you can do, write in advance. And a lot of people say, what if things change? Okay, first of all, things are probably not going to fundamentally change during a launch or a big promo. Maybe the details do. Maybe first prize instead of being 5,000 is, you drop it to 3,000. Cool. You replace a 5 with a 3. What does that take? A quarter of a second if you're slow? It's not a big deal. And so you can tweak things, but if you've done 95% of the work, then yeah, at the very end of the launch, you go, gosh, I ended up spending 3 extra minutes changing things. But you spent 3 minutes changing things instead of 5 hours creating things because you created them in advance. And there's something about doing it in advance, again, just from a busyness standpoint, a psychology standpoint, a mental health standpoint, that really changes things a lot. So a couple bonus things, just, I don't know, they didn't really fit into the last one. As far as, things that have worked for me, theming days, theming days or theming half days. This doesn't need to be rigid. Think of them as like rhythms, right? Even, just like a 4-hour period where you're really focused on a specific thing. So for me, I don't theme every day. I guess technically I do, because a lot of times Fridays is what I call a task snowball day, where I just try to accomplish as many of my tasks as possible, all the backlog. No, I don't care what's the most urgent, what's the most important. I just want to eliminate, right now I've got 34 tasks in Asana. And I'll do a task snowball day where I'll knock out like 16 of them, maybe upwards of 20. And so cool. Now I've just done a bunch of things. I have, again, no care in the world. I might waste 20 minutes doing something, but I've knocked out a bunch of stuff. Again, that's not something I do every day. Not something I even do every week, but about every third or fourth Friday, 15 times a year, I do a task snowball day, and it's usually on a Friday. But theming your days, like today, I'm really focused on relationship building. Theming your day around, today is like, the second Tuesday of every month, I'm going to write 30, 35 affiliate emails. Today I'm focused on updating affiliate, backends or whatever. That's super important. Another thing is set boundaries. This is hard to do sometimes when you have clients, but you got to do it. You are allowed to log off. If you are always available, you're never focused. So this is a basic brain science thing. If you're checking your phone for email at 8 o'clock at night and you're seeing that you have stuff, what you're doing is you're training yourself to kind of like, oh, okay, I got a couple of new emails. I don't need to respond to those. I'm just going to move on. You're training yourself not to really focus. I want you, when you're checking email, that you're checking email for whatever time it is, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 2 hours. I don't know. You're like, that's all you're doing is checking email. So then when you're off, you're off. When you're unavailable, you're unavailable. You're not unavailable, but no, you're off. You're unavailable. Delegate if possible. When we talked about this earlier, just delegate as much as possible. Train a VA. We will talk about that in the next episode, so make sure you listen to that. And then last one, just make sure you celebrate progress. It's not about being perfect. If you do one of the things that I talked about in this episode next week and you do it really well, celebrate. I guarantee you, if you do just one of the small things, you will either be, let's say it's like you set boundaries, you log off. Okay, you don't accomplish anything more because it takes a while for the brain science to change on that. So logging off at 6 p.m. and being disciplined in that for 1 week is you're not going to be more productive, frankly, during the week next week. But when you'll start being more productive in a couple of weeks, I can promise you that, if you consistently do it. But even if you're not more productive, you're more at peace. You're more present with your family, whatever it is. So that's a win. Celebrate that. I was more present with my family this week. How about that? I won. I did something good. I won. Celebrate. If you decide, all you're going to do is just systematize affiliate onboarding. That's it. That is the only thing you accomplish next week. At the end of the week, you will have a systematized affiliate onboarding. That is a win that I guarantee you is worth 10 minutes at minimum a week. For some bigger programs, it could be worth an hour or more. But let's just say 10 minutes. And you go, 10 minutes. Okay. And then the next week, you do something else. And then the next week, you do something else. And all of a sudden, in just 3 weeks, you're 30 minutes to an hour more productive a week. You have no idea what kind of an impact that will have on you and the bottom line. And it only gets better from there. And things start stacking. That's the cool thing. They start stacking. So if this was helpful, if you feel like this was helpful, take a screenshot or record a quick video or whatever, so you can send it to me, on social media at Matt McWilliams2 on X, Twitter, whatever. I'd love to hear just one thing that you're going to implement. You can also text me at 260-217-4619 and let me know, what are you implementing? What are you doing? So take a screenshot of something that you're doing, or just send me a quick video or just a quick text message, whatever it is, and let me know what you're implementing. So again, number one, prioritize by impact. Focus on those Q1 and secondly, those Q4, quadrant 4 tasks. Number two, batch and block. Try to at least set aside an hour first half and second half of the day where you're focused on something really important. Thirdly, systematize. Number four, use tools and use people. Not use people in that way, but you get the idea, right? And then fifthly, build buffer, into your day, into your week, so that you have those times to maybe take a nap or to do something else, right? Don't always assume that the day is going to go perfect. So what I want you to do is I want you to pick one strategy this week, just one, and then build from there. All right? Just pick one strategy and build from there. Again, you can text me, let me know how it's going at 260-217-4619. You can hit me up on X at Matt McWilliams2. I read every message, I promise you. I'd love to hear how you manage the chaos. So make sure you do that, and make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss the next episode where I'm going to talk about how to use virtual assistants to run a 7-figure affiliate program. I've teased it a little bit during this episode. I'm excited about that one. Can't wait. I'll see you then. Thank you so much for listening today. If you know someone who would benefit from hearing this episode, make sure to share it with them. And if you have a question, you can ask it at asktheaffiliateguy.com. Questions make my best episode, and it's a great way to get featured right here on the podcast. And if you're loving what you're hearing, please take a moment to leave a rating and review. That helps others find this content so we can all benefit from it. See you soon.